Widely propagated dissociative myths that sustain the bulk of caste system are becoming louder and louder to ensure that the listening body feels nothing but the broadcast of power. From Zero Power Cut's ongoing research work on caste and culture, broadcast is an argument on how broadcast sustains broad-caste, or how wide and loud propagation sustain caste in the mundane.
राक्षस कभी कट दिया आ रहा है
A folk play begins by introducing its characters as colloquial philosophical ideas. Words representing these ideas have multiple and complex meanings. According to this text, the protagonist is Brahma. Now let us listen to how Raju Ranjan, a contemporary folk artist, remembers the same.
विदेशी बरहम
What is written in the text and what is spoken by Raju are different. The text reads Brahma, but what is spoken is Barham. Brahma, often translated and spoken as Brahman, is the sacred supreme of the casteist theism of Brahmanism. This mythological construct speaks of an eternal, unchanging substance that is real beyond reality and source of everything. In populist propagation, these ideas are associated to a multi headed anthropological image called Brahma. But what is the
बरहम
that Raju spoke of? Based on oral anecdotes, Barham can be a personal practice of making a mound of clay to rest something that is making you restless, or to rest a pain or suffering which medicines are not able to solve. Barham can also be a site of folk worship. What we observe here in the textual documentation of folk is that Barham is replaced by Brahma. A folk concept of the oppressed is replaced by a hegemonic construct of the oppressors. This incident of Brahmanical appropriation and folk erasure has a history that goes back centuries. Since as early as around 400 BCE, Brahmins started stealing and Brahmanizing the culture of those whom they considered inferior. Celebrated as the national teacher figure of India but a plagiarist himself, S. Radhakrishnan writes of this mythic plagiarism from his Brahmanical position. But from a non Brahmanical position, I read the Aryanization or perhaps Brahmanization was a subjugating process. The Brahman tried to appropriate the myth and symbol, the fable and legend of the oppressed masses, to mobilize them as inferior caste people in a new manufactured religion, which they called Sanatan Dharam or eternal religion, which is now called Hinduism. In the documentary The Decision to Drop the Bomb, Oppenheimer quotes a precise moment of Brahmanization in which an appropriated tribal figure displays a supra-cosmic form.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
There is this general notion that folk has no individual authors, that folk comes from ancient unchanging practices of community, that folk is not only beyond author but also beyond time. This notion sustains the ongoing Brahmanical appropriation, and it is possible that this notion arrived only with Brahmanism. In the eternal order, Brahmins ontologize themselves and other privileged castes as authority on knowledge, power, and capital. Contrary to this hegemony are the workers, who are termed Shudras. The term Shudra means menial and knowledgeless. More simply, it means less or lesser people. The lesser people, however, form a demographic majority. In this ontologization of workers' knowledge as non knowledge, it is not just people and their forms of work which is menialized, but a cultural total intelligence or a common understanding of knowledge is sutrafied. This dissociation from one's own knowledge and culture is mythologically imbibed in the eternalist myths.
तब जाकर के खिलाफ का हुक्म क्यों दिया गया है कि एक तो हर दिन औरत का मतलब ये कि औरत की बाकी का जमाना होगा उस बाकी के जमाने में
For the caste system to sustain, it is important that people are dissociated from their own sufferings. It is only with self dissociation that self objectification can be induced and people can be reduced as pawns in a propaganda that oppresses themselves. To maintain this dissociative force in the mundane, hegemony invades all forms of media broadcast, from films to news, from televisions to local celebrations. Child sits next to loudness, but ears are covered. Distracted, lets the loudness in. Imitates adult dancing. Dissociated, unthinking, sudrafied, we imitate each other. Disembodied by loudness, we feel nothing.